Welcome, Davide. Good morning.
Hi, Steve. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward after having explored some of your material in the Link Library and then at your channel. I
Hmm.
have so many questions I want to ask you. But first of
Great.
all, I should say that I think the work you do is tremendous. You
Thank
cover,
you.
Italian history, Italian culture, how to learn languages, specifics of the Italian language. It's a wonderful place. If I were, even now, to improve my Italian, I would go to your material and work on it. So let
Yeah.
me ask you, first of all, how did you get started in this project of helping people learn Italian?
Okay. Yeah. I have been a language learner myself for a long time. Although in recent times, I haven't really focused that much on languages because with the project, I've been focusing on that more. But I was learning languages inspired by you, actually, and other people, Luca, and other great
Oh yeah,
polyglot content
absolutely.
creators.
Yeah.
And and I was using these resources for other languages, like the one I'm making for you know intermediate learners, even for beginners. And I thought I should do something like this for Italian. That's how many people get started. Actually, they want to do something similar to what they use themselves, and that's how I
Mm-hmm.
started out in, I think it was 2016, as a podcast, hence the name. I also have a
Mm-hmm.
podcast that's still active now. It's been a little bit less active in recent times, but it's still there, and I want to go back to publishing there as well a little bit more often. And then I opened up
Mm-hmm.
the YouTube channel later, where I
Mm-hmm.
also have a lot of content, as you've shown, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's the short story.
I should mention that we did a survey recently on Link, what languages people are learning. Italian is surprisingly high.
It is.
Right now it's people talk about Chinese or Korean or other languages like that, but obviously Spanish is I guess maybe because of the influence of North America or something. Spanish is typically right at the top of the list. French, maybe German,
And it makes
but
sense. I
Italian
mean,
is right up there. Italian is
yeah,
right up there.
Italian doesn't make sense in a way,
Right.
because it's like
Yes.
it's a smaller country. It's spoken. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is technically spoken in Switzerland, San Marino, but it's mostly
Mm-hmm.
spoken in Italy, um and yeah, I mean, it's not a huge, like, there are not that many people going to Italy to work here. Although I actually, let me take that back, because there are a lot of people immigrating to Italy from other countries, from poorer countries,
Mm-hmm.
for economic reasons and political reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and so obviously those
Mm-hmm.
people have to learn Italian. I just tend not to think about them that much because they're maybe not necessarily my average viewer.
So
Uh,
your average viewer, what is the motivation? Why what
yeah,
motivates people to learn Italian?
Yeah, it's a mix of things. Obviously, culture, the culture of Italy, the great, the power of attraction, of cultural attraction that
Mm-hmm.
Italy has, and we can get into that later. But there are also
Right.
there's another practical reasons that many people have, which is citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of people emigrated from Italy, mostly at the end of the 19th century and in the 20th century, the first
Mm-hmm.
half. And so there are a lot of, the Italian diaspora. There are a lot of Italians all over the world, or descendants of Italians, and those people can get their Italian citizenship if they find an Italian ancestor, and they
Mm-hmm.
can live in Italy and in Europe, in the Schengen area,
Mm-hmm.
and travel, and so that's a great advantage for
I
many
mean,
people.
Italy, historically, if you look at it, I mean, for a relatively small country, has had an outsized sort of influence on world history, which is true of other places too. I mean, I'm becoming increasingly aware of the influence, for example, of Persian
Yeah.
history. But the Italians, starting with Rome, which in a way was a continuation of Greek culture to some extent, although the language, of course, is quite different. And in that regard, I thought your podcast or YouTube video on Dante was very interesting from so many points of view. First of all, I have to congratulate you on how clearly you speak.
Thank you.
At the right tempo. You don't speak too slowly. You don't speak too quickly. You enunciate clearly that Italian intonation, which you talk about in one of your videos about how where the emphasis in the sentence, that syllable, the first syllable is going to get lengthened, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And of course, you do that. You're a model, in my opinion, of the Italian language. But I thought the podcast or the YouTube video you did about Dante, where he basically starts to use the vulgar, not the vulgar language, vulgar in the sense of the common language instead of Latin. And anyway, go on. Maybe explain a little bit about the influence and the importance of Dante that you touched on in that YouTube video.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, there's this phrase that gets thrown around a lot of Dante being the father of the Italian language. Now, I have to say, not everybody agrees with that statement. Even in academia, not everybody agrees with that. But still, it's safe to say that Dante was instrumental to Italian becoming the national language of Italy, even long before Italy was a unified country. Politically speaking. So, as I said, Dante was one of the first writers in Italy who was writing in the vernacular language as well as Latin. He was still using Latin a lot, but he was also experimenting with Italian. Actually, the first people who did that were the Sicilians, the Sicilian poets, and then came the Tuscan.
That leads me to a question. Because you say that in your video, and you say that Dante unified Italy through the power of his language, rather than by the sword. Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is then, how did he do that? Why is it like it wasn't through force of arms? Why did the Tuscan language as developed by Dante, rather than the Sicilian or I don't know what other possible, vernaculars? How did that happen that the Tuscan language dominated?
Well, I guess because the Tuscan literature was so influential everywhere in Italy. It was among the first, as I said, maybe it wasn't the first, but it was among the first examples of literatures in vulgar languages in Italy. In a vulgar language, and it was the most influential because of how, just think of the fact that we had three authors like Dante, Petrarca, and Boccaccio, all being born very close to each other in the span of, I think it was less than 100 years, or even less maybe. So there was even a little bit of a, like, it was even a coincidence in a way, but a lot of great writers were born in Tuscany, and that led to Tuscan and Florentine becoming the most influential literary language in Italy, and not the only one, but the one that mostly by the 16th century became the accepted literary and sort of the lingua franca of the elite in cultural elites in Italy.
Of course, one of the attractions of Italy is the strength of all the sort of regional historical background. Napoli or I don't know, Milano and Venezia, which was off by itself, and various types of foreign domination at different times of Italy's history. So there's a lot of variety there. And of course, beautiful cities and so forth. Another thing you do in your channel, which I think is great, is you teach people how to improve their Italian. And maybe you could summarize the video you did on the stress and the syllable stress and the intonation in a sentence. I thought that was very interesting. You remember casa?
Yeah. The one with the tips on how to sound more Italian.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one. So, what did I talk about in the video? I talked about la casa. Yeah, for instance, what you mentioned. So, like in Spanish, a word like casa has a very short,
Right.
stressed first ah, casa. Well, in
Right.
Italian, and this makes Italian sound the way it does, we tend to make that make that stressed vowel longer, so it's casa.
Right.
Vado a
Right.
casa. In Spanish, you voy a
Right.
casa, or voy, estoy en casa. Ta ta ta
Right.
ta. In Italian, you would say
Right.
vado a casa. So you elongate
Right.
those vowels more, and that makes you sound more
But
Italian.
you made the point that depend like vado a casa, vado a casa mia. So depending
Exactly.
on the stress in oggi, like wherever the stress is, that's where that happens. So it's
Yeah,
not automatic that every time you see casa, the stress is gonna be the same.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's usually the last word in a sentence, but it also depends on where the emphasis is. So vado a casa mia.
Right.
Right. But if you say il mio amico instead of
Right.
il mio amico, so my friend. So in that
Right.
case, you elongate the e in mio. That's a little bit technical, but yeah, it's that's interesting.
So how does one acquire that? Does one acquire that by just doing a lot of listening and being attentive to the language? Or is it necessary to have that pointed out? Or I guess it depends on the individual.
Yeah, I think it depends, and I think it's a mix of of both actually. Of course, you have to do a lot of listening as you teach on your channel, but I think it helps to have people point things out that you might not necessarily notice. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think?
I think, well, I always quote this lady who ran the San Diego State University language department who said there's only three things that matter in language learning. The attitude of the learner, the time you spend with the language. So not reading a grammar book in your own language, but actually with the language, reading, speaking, listening, whatever. And the third thing is the ability to notice. And I think to some extent the ability to notice develops if you put enough time into it, if you have an attitude that you want to notice. But some people just don't notice. The question is, even those people who don't notice, even if you point it out, it doesn't mean they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mixture. It's sometimes it helps. I wouldn't say it doesn't help. It's like in Russian, the unaccentuated O becomes an A. Some people don't notice that. You point it out, it doesn't mean they're gonna do it. So it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Another area where I thought it was interesting, you showed those circles of, there's this whole issue of how many words do you need? How do you activate your vocabulary? And you had one person on there who was very much into, every time you learn a word, write it out, use it, which I'm not a big fan of because it's going to limit your vocabulary. So there's always this issue of how much focus on the bits and pieces, the details, versus how much of the language are you going to bring into you. And I think you have to strike a balance. And you pointed out, too, that you have this sort of larger circle of words that you know and a very small number of words that you're comfortable using. At some point, you have to expand that, and you do that by speaking more, and you shouldn't be afraid of speaking. But at the same time, if you have a very small, larger circle, you'll never have much comprehension. You'll never have, words that you can eventually use to increase your active vocabulary. So there's this constant push and pull between how much input and how much you actually have to use what you've learned.
Yeah.
Where do you see all of this?
I mean, I'm a massive fan of. I'm a huge fan of massive input, and I've been, influenced by you on this. And I think you absolutely need to immerse yourself as much as possible in the language. But there are a lot of people who just do that, and then they don't speak very much, and they don't speak well.
Right.
Even if they're, if they don't have if they understand everything perfectly. So. You really have to speak a lot and write if you want to do those two things well. It's not going to be automatic, although of course listening and reading is going to help, but there's not an automatic influence on how you speak and how you produce the language. I think.
You eventually have to speak. There's no question, and eventually you
Yeah.
have to speak a lot. And I would say that as someone who wants to learn to speak, and I think Italian, any language, it's fun to speak the language. It's fun to imitate the intonation of the native speaker as close as you can get to it. and
Yeah.
there's a almost like that's the game. That's what's fun to do. So I agree with you that some people are reluctant to do that. It's a little more difficult. You got to set up a meeting or online or face to face. So it's more difficult. It's easy just to turn on your MP3 player and
Yeah,
listen.
it's almost too easy to consume content
Too
these
easy.
days.
Yeah.
It's so easy
I
that
agree.
like it's what you do by default. But yeah, you have to speak.
And I right. And I think the joy of expanding your vocabulary is that there's so much good material in Italian. Oh, and you also
Yeah.
had one a video and you talked about the importance of reading, and I totally agree with that. I mean, reading is absolutely essential. That's where you expand that vocabulary base, the passive, the potential words that eventually might be added to your active mix. But there's so much good material in Italian available.
Yeah.
When you go to Italy, how widespread is English? So if you're a person
Right.
that would like to visit Italy, to visit Rome or Florence or whatever, or even I don't know, Bari or Sicily. I mean, there's so many wonderful places to visit in Italy. How widespread is English? To what extent can you survive with just English? To what extent is your experience in Italy going to be richer
Yeah.
by being able to speak Italian?
I think it's going to be a lot richer, and obviously, like, knowledge of English really depends on the city, I believe. Also, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask because I'm not going to speak English to other Italians, but I think it really
Right.
depends. If you go to Florence or Rome or Milan, it might be easier to get by speaking English. But if you go to even Bari or other places, smaller cities, smaller towns, it's going to be near impossible to use English, especially if you go to I don't know, small borghi. We have these borghi, these small, very small towns or villages. I guess you could call them villages in English, which are beautiful in Italy. I think they're worth a visit. And if you want to communicate there, you're not going to be finding English very useful. So I think it's definitely making the experience a lot richer. And in general, I would say we're not that good in English.
Right.
We're probably a little bit better than Spanish people, and if I had to say, or at least we try harder, but still we're probably in the bottom countries when it comes to English proficiency in the European Union. So still not that good.
Behind the Portuguese, who aren't too bad in English.
No, the Portuguese are incredible. Yeah, it's a matter of we haven't
but
had
I was
that
gonna
much English speaking films and movies and all that, and we have everything dubbed in Italian, and so I think that played a role.
And one of the big attractions of Italy is food.
Yeah.
And particularly in a smaller town, but I can remember being in, I can't remember whether it was Bologna or where I was, or Parma, and in a lovely restaurant. And without Italian, you couldn't order and you couldn't engage the mama who was running the place in sort of chit chat back and forth. And even in the smaller towns, that's going to be even more the case. So for anyone wanting to explore Italy and explore the food and explore the countryside, having Italian is such a big advantage. And and
it just
I
makes
think
the experience
go ahead,
a lot
sorry.
more authentic and genuine and fun. So yeah, I totally agree.
And I heartily recommend your channel. As I say, because of how clearly you speak, how pleasant it is to listen to your Italian, and the range of content you have from history to the language itself to how to learn, and lots of different things. So
I also
found
have
one
the
of
podcast. If I can promote my own podcast,
Please,
as
go
I said,
ahead.
so
Please go
you have
ahead.
a lot of
Yes.
content on the podcast as well.
And you provide transcriptions, don't you, for your podcast?
Yeah, I do. And
So anyone who listens to your podcast or your videos, which has subtitles in Italian, both of those can be imported into Link for your own use. We have one item in there that is shared in our library, but nothing prevents our members from subscribing to your podcast or to your YouTube channel and then importing those into Link as lessons. And I can't think of a better way to work on Italian.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I mean, I've used Link a lot myself in the past. I've learned Russian with Link, and
Wow.
I've used it for French. I think I use it for French. Yeah, it's a great platform. I always recommend it to people. Yeah, I mean, if you like this immersion based learning, I think you're gonna love it. So
It's a wonderful world we live in where there's so much content available now in Italian or in Russian or in French or other languages,
Yeah.
and different ways of accessing this content. So language learners today are very fortunate. So with that, I mean, we could go on forever. I want to get back to your channel and do some more Italian.
Great.
But thank you for dropping by. And I will leave links, obviously, in the description box
thank you.
to your podcast and to your YouTube channel.
Great. Grazie
And,
mille.
people who enjoyed, how do you say, de nada? How do you say,
Di
prego?
nulla, prego. Non c'è di
Okay.
che.
Non c'è di che, non c'è di che. And people who enjoy these videos, please, subscribe, click on the bell for notifications. And if you follow me on a podcast, please leave a comment. I do appreciate it. So thank you very
you.
much, Davide.
Thank you very much, Steve. It was
Bye-bye.
a pleasure.